Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming to my session. How's everyone doing? Okay. My name's Sadie Van Buren. I'm a business development manager for Microsoft's Mixed Reality Studios. Not a lot of people know that Microsoft has this capability, so I just want to introduce us a little bit. We are a full-service engineering incubator within Microsoft Services. So essentially, we have 2 physical locations in Redmond and London, and within those, there is every role that you would need to create a custom mixed reality solution. So we have everything from creative directors through to software engineers, UX architects, 2D and 3D artists, project managers, everything that you need to create a solution. And we've worked with many large global customers over the years. The team's been around for about 5 years. We were formed to support the launch of the HoloLens 1. However, we are device agnostic and can work with any device and anything across the XR spectrum. So just want you to know that we exist and that we're here to help if you need. And so this session is going to be very solution-oriented. I'm not going to be talking about SKUs or product names or anything with power in the title. So if you want to talk about SKUs, maybe there's another theater that can help you today. All right. So just to kind of kick things off, I want to do a little poll. Back in the early days of my team, we worked with Boeing to help them develop a mixed reality solution to help their engineers lay out the miles and miles of wiring in a plane exactly to spec, right? So using mixed reality to do the guidance for that wiring. So just show of hands, how many people think that saved them 5 figures per plane? Okay, that's a 0%. How many people think it saved them 6 figures per plane? Okay, that's maybe like 5 or 10% of you. How many think it's 7 figures per plane? Okay, not everybody's voting, I see. That's fine, you can hold back. That's about 75% of you. And the 75% are right. They are saving 7 figures per plane with that solution. So I say this mainly to emphasize there is real business value here, which is possible for all of you. Small companies, large companies, there is ROI to be achieved with mixed reality solutions. So just to kind of go through what we're going to talk through, I'll do the quick what's in it for you. We'll level set on what mixed reality is, sort of the Microsoft definition, and then we'll go into the customer journey. So my hope when you leave this 20-minute session is that you'll have a sort of high-level sense of where someone might be in their journey along the mixed reality, right? So there's sort of like 3 main stages that we see, and they share common goals, challenges, scenarios, and different tools and tool sets at different times. So that's what I want to leave you with today. And also to understand kind of how to be successful moving forward and what the tools are that you can use. Quick level set on mixed reality. A lot of people refer to it as XR. Basically, we define it as anywhere the physical is overlaid with the digital, right? So the physical world and the virtual world merging. And this happens along a spectrum. So on the one end of the spectrum, we have actual reality. And then we move to AR, which is usually a 2D overlay where some data is being added. This is usually through a phone or a tablet or a screen. The backup assist in your car might be that. Then we move into the holographic 3D. So the HoloLens provides this. So where you're putting a 3D hologram into the physical space, but you can still see the physical space around you. And then finally, there's the complete virtual, which is that immersive, you can't see the physical world around you at all. So with that level set, how many people here are investigating or evaluating or even well on the way with a mixed reality solution in your business? Okay, that looks like maybe 15% of you. So okay, thank you for that show of hands. Good on you. So I'll be talking through the 3 stages. I've sort of divided them into crawl, walk, and run, sort of getting started, really moving along, and then really going to town with like a much larger app portfolio. So we're going to talk through each of these 3 stages. So in the first one, crawl, and again, this is based on what we've seen working with customers of all industries, all sizes, most of them very large, but a wide array of sizes, right? These are sort of typical markers that we see. And your mileage may vary. You may be in a different state or have some attributes that are slightly different, but this is what we're seeing sort of across the board. When you're just starting out with a mixed reality solution, You're just trying to understand what the value proposition is for your business, right? You hear that this is coming, you hear people talking about it as being sort of the next big thing, and you want to understand how to apply it in your business. So your goal here is really to identify the value that it provides to you. And how we recognize the organizations at this stage, there might be like silos within the organization, especially if you're global. You might have somebody over in Europe that's kind of looking at a solution, but the people in the US don't even know about it. Often we discover this because they're talking to their Microsoft reps about it, but not to each other. Typically, there's no dedicated budget, like not a line item for mixed reality, and your KPIs and your metrics are, your ROI is not really well defined at this stage. What we typically recommend here, just to get started, we have a number of first-party applications that fit in really well for this stage, so I'm going to talk about those in a moment. In terms of your developer skills, if you have developers in-house that have that 3D design capability, they might have little or no skills. Somebody might be working on sort of a one-off project that's sort of maybe a vanity project or just a passion project, but there's not a real holistic plan around developers' capabilities. And the challenge is here, as mentioned, you don't really have a clear business case. You're just seeing this sort of shiny new thing and you want to see what it can do. There's often a perception within the organization that AR or VR is just for gaming, and it's not really good for the enterprise. So I think hopefully by now the Boeing example will have kind of shown you that there's real business value there, but not everybody thinks that yet, so you're going to have to probably overcome that. You may not know all the options that are out there, which device to use, which platform to use, and then finally cost, right? Because these are not inexpensive solutions, especially if you're going custom. So that lack of budget is going to lead you to a challenge. So where you focus, if you're at this stage, is you really have to do a lot of education and evangelism within, right? You have to kind of share the case studies and provide the demos and define the ROI, figure out what the lowest hanging fruit is for the business, something with the biggest value, but that's also achievable, right? That's not going to take years to implement because you have to show success fast. We can help. We have a number of offerings that can help you get started. We can also do dedicated executive briefing center or Microsoft Technology Center briefings that you can bring your leadership in and give them, sort of a really focused understanding of what this can do for the business. We can also help with envisioning and ideation, right? If you have some use cases that you want to examine, we can help you get to the one that has the most business value based on what we've benchmarked with other customers. If you have a defined use case that you're thinking you want to understand if it's feasible or not, we can help there too. So again, as I was saying, we do have some first-party applications. They are a really good place to kind of jump in without a lot of investment. If you have a device that can support them, like the HoloLens, and some tablet apps support a few of these, you can try them out on a free trial in many cases and just see if they work for you. And why I would say Microsoft is good for folks who are at this stage, the HoloLens has been identified by analysts as a leader among headsets, mixed reality headsets. And in addition, those first-party apps, we're kind of out there with more, and we're putting more on the roadmap all the time. So just to give you a case study of a customer at this crawl stage, there's a power generation company that was looking at the remote assist product. So this is basically where you put the HoloLens device on. You can call an expert anywhere in the world. They can see through your eyes. You can mark up the space in the digital world. They can mark up the space, share specs, share documents. In this case, the customer just wanted it to improve their maintenance and troubleshooting process. They went ahead and customized a little bit and add forms to the process so that they could kind of finish out the work order. But this is basically just getting started with an essentially out-of-the-box solution that they could use to improve their maintenance and troubleshooting. And these storyboard sketches are the output, the kind of output that my team produces when we go through one of those ideation sessions. Right? We can send you back with this kind of storyboard and a development roadmap and an estimate to say, like, this is what it would take to get the solution in place. So moving on to walk, how we identify customers here is, okay, you figured out what your use case is, so now you have to create the value, right? You've identified the value, now you have to create it within the organization. Usually this is with a POC or a prototype. So here, the company may even have been an early adopter. We see a lot of this folks who maybe adopted VR for the solution 3 or so years ago, and now it's not living up to the potential, the promise, right? It's not collaborative enough, or it's not suiting the need. So people are starting to reevaluate. So they're kind of back at square one. You're starting to kind of consolidate throughout the org. Your leadership may understand the value of mixed reality or know what it is, and they may be supporting that with the budget for a first project. In terms of your developers, what we find them typically thinking about at this stage is they're thinking about kind of how to standardize and take your mixed reality application into the fold as a legitimate part of the application portfolio. And then finally, the challenges that we see here, if you have a lot of 3D models that you want to turn into holograms, this is not just a one-click process, right? Like, it's a very manual process for a lot of our customers now, getting those from the 3D file, the CAD file, or whatever file format it might be, into the hologram that's optimized for the device. It is burdensome now, so a lot of organizations are struggling with that process. You may need to do some sort of upgrade or platform shift so that you may not understand where you need to go there and all the different options. You may be struggling with integrating with your systems, right? If you're doing a POC and it's based on dummy data, but you want it to actually integrate with your SAP, that might be something that you need to struggle with. You might be bumping up against your IT folks. If you're bringing a new device into the organization and they now have to get that enrolled into your device management, they may be pushing back on you, so that may be a blocker as well. And then finally, some procurement departments are just not familiar with this technology, and you're going to have to make the case to them as well, right? They're going to come and say, what are we actually buying here? What is this? And you're going to have to kind of be able to have to do that even more education and evangelism to kind of get it past procurement. So where you're focusing here is on enablement, right? You've got your use case, you've got your business value defined, and now you need to make sure your organization can go forth and support it. So the guidance here is to focus on success. You want to make sure you have the resources that you need, either in-house or with a partner. You're able to share demos and case studies of the more complex scenarios to kind of build your case. There is a wealth of mixed reality developer resources out there, so your developers may be starting to leverage that toolkit. What we recommend here, again, ideation workshop if you need to flesh out that use case and make sure it's feasible. We also offer a jumpstart offering to get you a custom POC in a relatively short time frame. You don't need the in-house capability to do that, right? If you just need to have something to show your leadership that it works and that it can provide value, we can help. We also offer co-development and enablement, right? So if you have a project that you want to engage on and you have some developers that need a little bit of upskilling, they can come and embed with our team and accelerate their skills very, very quickly and develop the POC together. So in this case, Honeywell had come to us. This is one that our team worked on. And they wanted to build a training solution, but they needed it to do some things that the standard set of features in mixed reality couldn't do yet. So in this case, they needed to be able to manipulate the part in space, right? It was basically showing how to change a part on a piece of equipment, and they wanted the technician to actually be able to remove the virtual part and put another part back in. And so if any of you have used the HoloLens 1, you know this is not the kind of gesture that is supported at the time. We're very close to being able to support those kinds of gestures now, but at the time it wasn't possible. So my team worked with Honeywell to actually provide that experience of grasping and moving the object. And so this is just a really good example of them at that walk stage, right? It's one use case. It provides a lot of value. It improves their training. They don't have to ship the equipment from place to place or ship the people to the equipment. They're saving a lot of cost. So the ROI is clear, and it's one thing that they could focus on and develop. Moving on to run. At this point, you need to realize the value of your investment, right? So if you've built your use case and you're starting to see that work throughout the organization, now you want to make good on the investment that you've made. So for example, if you bought a bunch of mixed reality devices, now you want to see what else they can be used for instead of just that one thing, right? So expanding on the value of your investment. Organizationally, you might be looking at having a mixed reality center of excellence. Some of our larger global customers are starting to set those up. Typically, at this point, the majority of the organization is going to know what mixed reality is and what it can do. You might be doing some of the classic organizational maturity things like continuous improvement and a regular iteration cycle. There will be dedicated budget at this point, and IT will be your friend rather than your blocker. So in terms of your development capabilities at this stage, because you're working on a whole portfolio of applications, or at least aspirationally, you're going to have those skills in-house, or you may make the decision to say, okay, we're not going to be a development shop, but we are going to work with a partner that we trust and leverage them to build a solution for us. You've got some workflow to handle the model ingestion as well. Usually at this stage, you've got that worked out. The challenges we see with customers here, oftentimes stuck in POC. Many of the customers that come to us and are needing help are at that stage. They've built something, it's functional in-house, but they just can't get it over the line into production for whatever reason. Or even more commonly, it's something that they want to turn into a product and sell back to their customers, and they're having trouble with that scale, right? With that whole business model of like, how do we actually productize this? And thirdly, we see a lot of problems that have not yet been solved. One that I'll mention is around accuracy. We have a lot of customers come, and they have very, very, very fine requirements around accuracy. This is across industry, by the way. Medical, manufacturing, aerospace and aviation, you name it. They want like +1 or -1 millimeter accuracy. And the hardware just isn't quite there yet, right? So we're all working toward improving this. But there are some problems that have not yet been solved. So that can be a challenge. If you're an organization at this stage, your whole goal is to expand, right? So to move out that investment, make sure it can do other things for you, leverage what you've already got, think holistically, and be inspired by some of the very much larger companies that are kind of doing this and have brought this in-house. At this point, I'll just mention adoption and change management can be really critical, right? In terms of getting things into production and then having them kind of widely scale out. And finally, Microsoft is a great partner for you here because of our deep expertise working across industry. Our product group is always working on what's next, both on the device side and the solution side. And we've got the full capabilities over the spectrum of everything you want to do to integrate with data sources, machine learning, IoT solutions, basically anything you can think of, we can help you get there in terms of the integrations. So the case study here, we do a lot of work with manufacturers. They're like the largest majority of our customers. But we are starting to see more work with education and cultural institutions. So I wanted to share this one because I thought it was interesting from the perspective of, if you're a very large museum, there is so much that you can do with mixed reality. It really becomes a portfolio of applications within the organization. So these are some of the work product that came out of an ideation session that we did with a museum in Europe. And it just shows sort of the breadth of the ideas that we can help elicit out of the org. But wait, there's more. And so the many, many things that can be done, right? So once you have this kind of vision in mind of like how many ways that you could use it, it's really going to expand that investment and really make it worthwhile to you. So to sum up, 3 stages for the journey that we typically see. If you're at that crawl stage, your mission is to educate. If you're at the walk, it's to enable. And if you're at the run stage, it's to kind of expand throughout the org. So let me pause here and just ask you, how many people here feel like they're at this stage with mixed reality? Okay, maybe 5 or 10%. How many feel like they're here? Okay, much smaller percent, like definitely like 5 or so. How many are here? Okay, so the good news is there's like a nice roadmap for you, right? Like you can get there because many of our customers have. So, just informationally, within services we do have an approach that can help you get there, right? So we can lay out the full roadmap for you if that's where you're looking to go. I'll just quickly say we have packaged offerings that can help you, right? So there's everything from the ideation workshop, where Microsoft typically invests and there's no cost to you, all the way up to a custom-sized project where we can help you develop that. We have digital advisors that can also help you with these things, right? Understanding what's good for your business, developing the ROI use case, helping you ideate. So if you are interested in working with one of those, I would say talk to your Microsoft account rep. There might be one that could be aligned to your organization to help you. quick pitch for the other mixed reality sessions at Ignite. There's just good stuff across the board. I've got another one Thursday that's a bit longer than this one that'll talk about the 4 areas of digital transformation. But there's just a lot of great content for mixed reality at this conference, and we're pretty excited about it. I will mention, again, I'm Sadie Van Buren. I'm on the solution side of the business. If you have questions about the device specifically or about mixed reality devices, we do have a device seller here today, Ahmed El Komi, wave to the people. So if you want to ask about the HoloLens next generation, he's here for you. Just do not ask him when, because he can't tell you. Okay, thanks everyone.